Well, greetings everybody. I hope this will take a quick Sabbath day video. I'd like to point you out to Isaiah chapter 2, starting verse 1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amoz son concerning Yada and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days. These are the things I've been trying to explain to many people, and I'm sure that many do understand it that are listening to me, all 12 of you, that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above all the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the mountain of Yahshua. They're both the same. They are at one. To the house of the father of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahshua from Jerusalem. And Yahshua became the living word, the ever living word. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And once again, I'd like to bring out that I don't know much about prophecy. I've read, I've studied every word of the prophecies. Rabbit holes right now. They're going to come to pass, they will come to pass, and in the end, which is before this generation ends, these things will be known. But until now, until they come about, it's like, what do? We just pray about it. I pray that somebody out there will get the spirit of prophecy. It's the gift of the Holy Spirit. I don't have it that I know of, and I don't want to blaspheme the Holy Spirit in case I do. But the thing is, I don't think I understand it because I don't understand these things. Hopefully you might. If you do, let me know. Till then, let's look at what it says here in Isaiah 2, also in Micah verse 4. It will tell you the same things, where we are to go to the house of Yahweh. Where is it? And if America finally does realize that contracts are bindable and are in effect, then I should own Texas, and I should actually own pretty much the United States of America and the world for our king, not me. And these are filed in contracts that this world will not recognize at this time. And I hope they do. Pray for it. Pray and cry out for judgment to come, as Enoch says. And we'll see you some other time. Hey, bye-bye. Well, greetings all. I'd like to bring to your attention here, it says here, a sect member threatens to seize city's property. Okay, this was from July 26, 2003. And of course, they put out this in the Abilene Reporter News. And if you look up in the archives, you will not find this in the archives because it was taken away. And the reason it was is because I basically was going to sue them for every time my name was mentioned falsely, or in effect, whatever way, for $500,000. Anyway, I'd like to read this to you to show you that I actually own Abilene. I own Taylor County, I own Callahan and Coleman County in contracts, if this world will only recognize contracts are correct and true. And this is the reason they brought me into court. The Abilene Reporter News actually did this to preempt a falsified or a fraudulent cause filed against me over 600 Virgil Abilene, which never existed and still doesn't. My property was 700 Virgil. They demolished my property with 600 Virgil. And this is a news ad that I'd like to show you. It says Abilene City Hall is taking seriously a threat from a man to confiscate more than 1 billion in computers. Like I wanted computers, okay? And other city property. No, I own Abilene. As repayment for a 1989 house demolition, even if the amount raised eyebrows. Yes, it certainly did raise some eyebrows. We don't have nearly that many computers, City Attorney Sharon Hicks said. Now, City Attorney Sharon Hicks was on the witness stand, and I approved her of having completed some aggravated perjuries, and I told the bailiff, I says, bailiff, this woman has spoke such and such, take her to jail and throw her in there and throw away the key, and he didn't do nothing. So I told the judge, it's like, judge, you go ahead and I make a motion for you to make your bailiff throw her in jail. And what did he do? He got up, he ran out of his courtroom and locked himself into his office. But anyway, on Wednesday, Hicks emailed city employees advertising them of warning from Mr. Alan Douglas Fountain, now known as Al-Yahnai Fountain Hawkins. Hicks cautioned employees to alert an official if anyone called or arrived in person requesting city property. And this came because I went to the sheriff who was supposed to commandeer property, equipment, and such at that time, and he refused to do so because he's part of the authorities, as Enoch spoke of, and he would not do his duty or his job. And then he filed a false report in the city's court case here that they filed after all this is done. And so it says, so far, Fountain has not attempted to make any property or take any property. Hicks said the city issued a cease and desist order against him. But the thing was, this cease and desist order against me was basically out of a notary protest. Notary protest wherein I filed a charge against them, the authorities, and it was like they said up there over $1 billion. It says right now we are just proceeding with the alert until he takes more steps. That's me, Hicks said. The dispute stems from the 1989 demolition of Fountain's house. Now this is where the fraud comes in right there. At 600 Virgil Street. No, it wasn't never there. You can look up in a Google thing and you'll see that 600 Virgil Street, Abilene, Texas, there isn't one. There never has been, there never will be one. My property was at 700 Virgil. They used the wrong demolition order to demolish me, and that's where the bill came up for what they say, more than $1 billion. Okay, it's more than $1 billion, not in computers or city property. I own all the city property. But anyway, it talks about located off TMP Lane, where the house of Yahweh headquarters is located. And please look here. I've been persecuted. Sect member. Okay, I'm a sect member at that time. So they were saying I was being persecuted, and I'm telling you I was. I've been in tribulation for many years. Anyway, where the house of Yahweh headquarters was located, okay, the religious sect labeled a cult by some, and I thank the ones that have actually this Cult Education Institute. Thank you very much for keeping this article alive. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. Abilene Reporter News does not have it in their archive because they removed it because they know that I own them. Check it out. Please do so. Anyway, it says, was started by former Abilene police officer Bill Hawkins, now known as Israel Hawkins. Many of Hawkins' followers changed their last name to match his, which is not correct. The reason why many of us at the first had changed our name was because Bill Hawkins told us it would give us citizenship in Israel, which we never moved to. He's still there. He's a liar. Don't worry about it. Anyway, a House of Yahweh spokesman said she did not know Alan Douglas Fountain or Al-Yahnai Fountain Hawkins, but who would ask him to return a reporter's phone call if he was located. This is a bunch of bullcrap because I was Israel Hawkins' personal bodyguard at that time. I was very adequate in self-defense and such, and I was in his office when he was there at all times. They knew me. This is crazy. I called back to Reporter News and I told them to put a retraction in or I would sue them, and they chose to remove this article from the Abilene Reporter archives. The phone call was not returned. Baloney. I called them several times. Neither name is listed in the Abilene phone book. At that time, there were phone books, believe it or not. A lot of people don't know that, but in 2003, we still had phone books. Hicks said that in 1989, before she became city attorney, Fountain filed a suit against the city. His house had been condemned in January of that year and demolished, which was crap. The newspaper couldn't, this is fake news, okay? This is what it is. Fountain was ordered by the city to remove the rubble. Yes, I was told to remove the debris, in which I did do so. I removed the debris by the time they said. I had also a contractor come in with a dumpster that we removed everything into. It was removed before the demolition, but you got to realize the demolition took place because Richard Sullivan, a man who put my dog into my house, and she was a beauty, boy. She was so obedient. She was just a pleasure. She was a Rottweiler and not raised to attack or anything. She was raised to love. And Richard Sullivan put her into my house and burned the house down around her ears. And I stated so right in a Board of Building Standard Committee meeting. It was actually broadcast on TV live. I didn't even know about that. But the thing is, Richard Sullivan was there present. He never said he didn't do it, and therefore he admitted to it because he knew he did it. And he put my dog in the house, burned it down around my dog's ears, and it says, Hicks said the house had burned and the city cleared the lot when Fountain failed to. Well, I also showed in the court record where I had a receipt showing the house was removed and put into the dumpster that I can't remember exactly the name of the people that did it, but they took away the dumpster. But they put it right on the receipt that I had put the burnt house and structure and debris from the property into the dumpster. And they charged me for it, and they took it away. And then afterwards, this Richard Sullivan having a little bit of vengeance in his heart, which I forgive him for. He's done it for so many other people too that I believe he's going to burn for because he didn't get their forgiveness. I'll tell you, there's many people out there won't forgive. I forgive him just like I do Satan the devil. Anyway, it says, fountain suit was filed in district court, in the state district court, which it wasn't at that time. At that time, it was in the district court of the federal government, and it was filed fraudulently. What they did was they took my name and my wife's then name, and they had a notary public that isn't even a notary public. They created a seal and everything, and they put me into that federal district court, but my signature wasn't mine or anything. I never had no idea that they even did it, and my wife as well did the same. She had no idea they did these things, but Abilene Reporter News knew they did, so they figured they'd better backtrack as quick as they could, and they, like I say, take a look. You won't find this article in the Abilene News Reporter News. You won't find it there because they're frauds, just like the courts and everything else are that are against me, but it's going to come out, and this investigation will take place. It says, but it says fountain suit was filed in the state district court, but was transferred to federal court. This didn't even take place. It went to federal court. I had no idea we even went there. None whatsoever. Hicks said, she's a lady that was on the witness stand that I had showed she had aggravated perjury and was allowed to do so because that's what these courts, these hearings for Baphomet in the Masonic courtrooms do, and that's what these are, Masonic courtrooms. And I'm not making any money off this, people, so don't even think I am. It says, Hicks said, because one part of it alleged the city did not follow due process, a constitutional issue. No, there were several parts, I said, that the court did not follow. They don't even care about Constitution anymore, people. They're out to own you and to kill you and to eat your children that are offered up as abortions. The suit alleged the due process issue arose when the city failed to properly declare the house a nuisance. No, it wasn't a nuisance. I had completely refurbished the house, and it was ready to go back on the grid. I had an appointment with them to come down, check it all out, but Richard Sullivan put my dog in there and burned my dog alive in my house, Hicks said. In 1991, U.S. District Judge Sam Cummings issued a summary judgment in the city's favor, dismissing the suit. Yes, I never knew it was filed. I never did. But then I found out the original attorney I had, Gary Brown, I believe was his name, and he got nominated as a district attorney, I believe, out close to Abilene because of what he did in this matter by filing fraudulently, even to the forging of my signature, forging of my wife's, then my wife's signature. Her name was not Anne, and that's how she signed these documents by the forgerer, was Anne Fountain. Her name was Judith. I don't know where the hell. Her middle name was Anne, Judith Ann. But this guy, man, he got himself a district attorney's position to put people in jail and prison and everything. This man was so unworthy, you wouldn't believe it. Anyway, District Judge Sam Cummings, and I recently did file against these things, saying that it was a fraud in the district court of the federal government, and I'm yet to hear back from them. I will be filing more on it because I most likely will charge them or bill them for doing the same. Anyway, Judge Sam Cummings is issued a summary judgment in the city's favor, dismissing the suit. I knew never anything about it. And it was filed actually in this court case, 23075B of the 104th District Court. Yeah, Taylor County, I believe. So anyway, you can put in for that, and you'll see that I even offered them my head. They could chop my head off, they could shoot my head, they could shoot me right through the brain if they could prove the charges against me. 600 Virgil never existed. 700 Virgil, where I was, existed because they bulldozed me and they brought all this fraud up against me. I basically billed them privately, contractually. If you understand anything about contract law, you know that I can bill anyone for any damages or harms done against me, and they didn't pay. And I had a notary protest wrote out, 3 times was sent out, and they failed to pay their debt, and therefore I own Abilene, I own Taylor, Callahan, Coleman counties, and since then other things they've done against me, I have owned the state of Texas and most likely the whole United States if they will only honor contracts. It says here, Hicks said the house had burned. Yes, the house burned. Richard Sullivan burned it down with my dog in it. And the city cleared the lot when Fountain failed to. Well, I have in the court record a paper showing it was all cleared. It was all cleaned. Even the house, everything was done, but Richard Sullivan had vengeance on me, and he came down with bulldozers and such, and I refused to pay the amount, $900 and some dollars. I think it was like $904 they wanted for taking out the foundation of my house, busting up my septic tank and everything else, demolishing things they weren't even supposed to do, and they wanted to charge me, and I says, you know, there you go. This is Fountain suit was filed in state district court, but was transferred to federal court. No, that wasn't the way it was. Anyway, the suit alleged the due process issue arose when the city failed to properly declare the house a nuisance. Now, it wasn't just a nuisance, but they had no reason to be there. There was no property that was condemned whatsoever at that time. Everything was brought up to standards. Hicks said in 1991, now Hicks, she's the one that was on the witness stand and should have been put in jail for aggravated perjury, but she was exonerated. I mean, most of these city attorneys and such that was against me, and I was just me, and we had like 7 or 8 city attorneys or those that worked in the city attorney's office coming against me, each wanting in excess of $10,000 each, using your taxpayer dollars to acquire this money. Yes, that's unlawful. That's a misappropriation of public and federal funds. But right now, the United States of America's corporation allows these things. Otherwise, they'd have an investigation going on right now as to why this should not have been done. Hicks said in 1991, U.S. District Judge Sam Cumming issued summary judgment, so on and so forth. But it was a suit I didn't know nothing about. The suit also alleged an action for slander of title. Now, see, the funny thing is, this is what it was filed under in the federal court, a slander of title. I never said no one slandered my title. I have no idea. I didn't even have title. I was buying the property. I didn't even have title, so how could it be a slander of a title if I didn't even own it? This is what that fellow that filed it fraudulently had put it in for. But it says, the city filed a lien on the property to pay for its removal. Baloney. I already paid for all the removal of all debris and trash and everything else, all the debris, including the entire house, because when it burnt, the stones, the mortar, you could just touch the rock like this and it would fall to the ground. So I invited people over. I had thousands of birds, exotic birds, and we put many of those birds on a spigot basically to have those come over to help us remove the stuff, put it into the dumpster that was removed, and even on the receipt that's in the court case it says for the removal of the burnt house and debris from the property. But because the court case was brought under 600 Virgil that never existed, everything I had under 700 Virgil, including that receipt and everything, was dismissed. Though I have it filed in the court. I did that. I filed it in the court record, although they dismissed it on the court hearing. Okay? So it shows these things. They own me and they know it. That's why they murdered me recently. But they tried to say they had to pay for the removal. It also claimed the city trespassed on Fountain's property. Absolutely they did. I had SKS 56 or 57, whatever that gun is, and I could have used it. I had an M16, a couple other guns as well. I could have shot the crap right out of everybody and everything there. But instead, because it says that I wouldn't be violent, and I didn't realize that until these recent years, I wouldn't be violent, that's why I didn't shoot the shit out of them. Okay, that's plain and simple. The entire suit was dismissed in Cummings' order, Hicks said. Yes, because I never knew nothing of it. Recently, Fountain began sending letters to the city requesting information on employees from 1998 since bank account numbers, Hicks said, but the city didn't respond. Of course they didn't. They didn't do the Information Act that they're supposed to follow. They didn't follow these things. Hicks said the city is not taking extra precautions other than alerting employees. Well, what are they alerting employees about? Most of the city's vehicles, listen to this, most of the city's vehicles are police cars, which Hicks said would be difficult to steal. Hey, ever steal a police car? They're not easy. They're not that difficult because sometimes the officers step outside and they go running around with their guns out at somebody that might have had a water bottle that, they was drinking from in the wrong fashion, and someone could jump right in on police cars. But anyway, she's saying that, it would be hard to find, it would be difficult for me to steal a police vehicle. Heavy equipment operators were sent a memo advising them of mine, Fountain's threat to take city property. Okay, so I'm out there basically wanting to steal police cars and city property. That's what this article in the news is. And of course, this article is against those that are of cults. And of course, it came out of a cult, but what did they do to help anybody that's out of a cult? Nothing. Think about it. We continue to take the same safeguards we normally do, except, I'm thankful for these people here that have saved this report, from the Abilene Reporter, as it says here. You won't find it in the Reporter News. You can't find it. They've removed it completely. 2003. That ought to give you a little validity that, what's going on, I say, is true. And this $1 billion, I'm sorry, it's much, much more than that. Enough for them to slander me, a sect member. That is definite persecution. And when was it? 2003. That's like 20 years before most Christians even think persecution is going to take place. It's 2003, people. I've been under the gun since 1987. They mentioned 1989 in here, but it was 2 years before that I started persecutions. And they've been doing it, tribulations and such, since then. So look at these things. Look in the book of Enoch, and you'll see that these things are true. I'm sorry that I'm one of the 144,000. I'm one that leaves 143,999 others, but what can I do about it? Can I say anything against it or for it? I don't know. What do you think? Think about it, please. I'm not asking for your money or anything else. All the money I'm going to get from this is going to help us all, that we may come before our King.